Do your goals look something like this? Lose weight, save money, get out of debt, get closer to God, and clean the house. If so, it's a setup for failure. I want to teach you how to set goals the right way so you can get results. Hey, I'm Terri Savelle, and you're watching Live Your Dreams. I pray that as you invest in yourself today, you're captivated and you're catapulted to live your dreams. Obviously, I'm passionate about teaching people to go after the dreams, the goals that God's put in their heart. You know, I remember hearing a story about Helen Keller. Remember, she was blind and deaf? And they asked her one time, they said, what could be worse than having no sight? She said, to have sight, but have no vision. That would be the worst thing, to have sight but have no vision for your life. Well, obviously, this comes from the Word of God. God's the one who said, where there is no vision, the people perish. Well, I believe God's speaking to you today to get a vision for your life, to get your dreams back. Don't go to the grave with your dreams still in you, right? Well, it's one thing to have a vision, to have it on the inside of you. That's progress. But let's kick it up a notch and actually get your dreams and goals in writing, even on a vision board. You know, when I began doing this years ago, I went from just wishing my life would improve to truly living my dreams. You know, I've heard stories of people who've had vision boards or even just put pictures on their refrigerator. Or I remember this story, which I love this story, about Conrad Hilton, you know, from the Hilton hotels. He did the same thing. He didn't have a vision board, but listen to what he did. He said he was coming out of the Great Depression. This was in 1929. And he said, you know, they're suffering big losses, the crash of 1929. All of a sudden, one day, he came across this article in a magazine, and it was titled The Most Famous Hotel in the World. It was the Waldorf Astoria. And it was titled The Most Famous Hotel in All the World there in New York City. Well, he said as he's looking at that magazine, he looks at that hotel, God dropped a dream in his heart that one day he would own that building. Now think about this. He's coming out of the Great Depression. He said he could barely pay his own rent. It looked like the most impossible thing in the world. But he said he grabbed some scissors, he cut that magazine article out, he put it under the glass on his desk, and every day he looked at that vision. Every day he kept that vision before his eyes. He said years went by, looked like it would never happen. He said whenever he would visit New York City, he would walk around that hotel believing, praying, and dreaming that one day he would own that property. 18 years later, he was able to acquire 250,000 shares of the Waldorf Astoria Corporation, and he ended up purchasing the most beautiful hotel in the world. That's the power of having a vision clearly before your eyes. We know you might say things like, well, that's great, but that's Conrad Hilton. What about me? Well, you know, I love getting testimonies from people. I've gotten testimonies from people all over the world who are living their dreams. In fact, one girl, I love this, in Minnesota. She said, you know, she was a personal trainer for years, and she's watching all these other people succeed and improve their lives. And she said, all of a sudden, I got serious about my dreams. She made a vision board of her owning her own gym, her own fitness facility. Well, today, she owns that gym. Another lady who is a single mom of 4 kids, recently divorced, living in Switzerland. She came to one of my meetings in Germany, took the train to hear me, and she said, as I began getting serious about my future, instead of just watching everybody else live their dreams, she said, I made a vision board of me owning my own cleaning company. She said, today, I not only own that company, but I'm hiring more employees. Well, she got serious about her future. Same with another couple who, they said everybody was always telling them, your food is amazing, you should open up your own restaurant. Well, instead of just thinking that's for everybody else but me, they took it seriously. They said they not only opened their own restaurant, but they were voted one of the best restaurants in their city. They're living their dreams, right? Well, I want you to realize God has so much more for your life. God never meant for you to just get to a certain place in your life and just park. In fact, I heard someone say there's no neutral with God. We're either going forward or we're going in reverse. But God has more. But you know, you've got to get serious about it. You've got to realize that He has more for your life. I love this story I heard about. It was a professor who was getting ready to give his students the final exam of the semester. It was the most important exam of the year. And he told them, he said, I am so proud of you. You've done so good this year. He said, in fact, I'm going to make you an offer. He said, for those of you who would like to take an automatic C, you don't even have to take the exam today. Just lift your hands, you get an automatic C, and you're free to go. He said there was just quiet in the room. People started looking around. Is he serious? All of a sudden, one hand went up, another hand went up. Before you know it, half the class stood up and walked out. And they were shouting, rejoicing, we didn't have to take the exam and we got a C. Well, for the ones who remained, he began to speak life into them. He began to encourage them. He said things like, you know what? Because you stayed, you have proven that you want to go far in life, that you're not going to settle for average, that you're not going to just barely get by. And he said, before you don't turn the exam over, he went through the whole classroom, he laid the exams face down, and he just kept encouraging them. Then he said, because you believe in yourself, turn the paper over. They turned it over, and this is what it said. Congratulations, you just made an A. Well, think about that. They believed that they were made for more. They believed that they didn't have to settle for average. Why settle for average when you're capable of so much more? Well, I believe God's saying that to you today, that He made you to achieve big things. Don't settle for life the way it is. Don't settle for debt another 10 years, another 20 years. Don't settle for an average job when you know God has put something on the inside of you, that He's given you gifts and talents that He wants to utilize. He wants to use your gifts. Well, I love teaching people to dream, how to go after their dreams. But one of the most powerful things you can do is just sit quietly with the Lord and listen for His voice. And whatever comes up in your spirit, write it down. Just get a pen and some paper and start writing down whatever you hear in your heart. It's just like in the Word of God. You remember when Satan came to tempt Jesus? And every time Jesus would declare, it is written, and he'd speak the word. Well, sometimes you have no indication that your life will ever improve. But you can look at that journal where you've been writing your time with the Lord, and you can say, it is written. I love this story. This is just such a cool story. I was surprised to hear who it was, but it was about a young man who, in 1976, he said he was just struggling with what he wanted to do with his life. He didn't have any real direction. So he said he came home from college, he went up to his mom's beauty shop, and he's just sitting there killing time, waiting for his mom to get off work. Well, all of a sudden, one of the customers walked in named Ruth. They knew each other. She'd seen him grow up through the years. They said hi to each other. When Ruth sat down to get her hair done, she said all of a sudden something just came up in her spirit, and all she could think was, somebody get me a pen and some paper. So they did. And she began writing what she saw in her spirit. And she wrote, you will speak to millions. You will travel the world and make a positive difference. Well, she folded it up, she handed it to the young man, and she said, young man, this is for you. She said, God has something amazing in your future. Well, he said when he opened that up and read it, something just came alive on the inside of him. He folded it up, he put it in his wallet. He said he carried it around for years. And he said every time he would get discouraged and he'd want to give up on his dream and it looked like it would never happen, he would open up that paper, read it, and he'd think, nope, I'm not going to give up. God has something amazing in my future. Somebody believes in me. Well, do you know today, Denzel Washington still carries that note everywhere he goes? Well, sometimes you may have no indication that the dreams God's put in your heart, the dreams that maybe you've put on a vision board, you have no indication that these dreams will ever come to pass. It looks impossible. People are laughing at your dreams. People think you're crazy for thinking this could happen to you. Well, you have to get to the place in your life where you point to that and you say, it is written. And be it unto me according to my faith. And my faith believes everything is possible to him who believes. You have to have that kind of faith. Well, I want to teach you not only how to have a dream and a vision board, but I want to teach you how to set goals the right way. I've heard a story about a professor at Virginia Tech. He did research on successful people and goal setting. He said he walked up to random people on the street and he just asked them one question. He said, what are your goals for life? What are your dreams? What are your goals? He said 80% of the people he asked said, I don't have any dreams. 80% of the people walking around have no dreams for their life. 16% said, I have some dreams, but I've never written them down. 3% said, I've written my dreams at some point, but I don't know where they are. 1% said, I have dreams, I've written them down, and I review them on a consistent basis. In other words, they're in front of my eyes. He said, you know who the 1% were? Millionaires. Every one of them were millionaires. And the clues these millionaires have left for us: number 1, I have dreams. Number 2, I write them down. And number 3, I keep them before my eyes. Something powerful happens when you get serious about your dreams, your goals, and you keep them consistently before your eyes. Well, if they say 93% of New Year's goals go unfulfilled, then maybe we're just setting goals the wrong way. It's one thing to have a vision, but you got to set goals the right way. So when we come back, I'm going to teach you the SMART goals technique on how to get specific, how to reach your goals so that it no longer just becomes something on a board that you just wish would happen, but you truly start living your dreams. I'll be right back.
God never intended for you to just exist with each day a repeat of the day before. He designed you to thrive and live your dreams. You've been given gifts, talents, and desires in your heart to fulfill a great purpose. So call or go online now to request the Dream It, Pin It, Live It package. In Terri's inspiring and practical book, Dream It, Pin It, Live It, you'll discover how to identify the dreams God's placed in your heart, how to effectively set goals so you can achieve them, how a vision board can dramatically impact your future, and much more. This special offer also includes the companion workbook to help you apply and personalize the teachings to your life, and an MP3 audiobook version to listen to on the go. Call now, 800-795-5597, or visit terri.com to request these life-changing resources for just $35 for a limited time.
So let's talk about moving into that 7% category of people who achieve their goals. You know, if you're anything like me, I used to set goals that were so broad, common goals like lose weight, save money, get out of debt, get closer to God, spend more time with family, read more, get the house organized. Well, although these goals are common, they're a setup for failure because they're broad, they're unclear, they're hazy, and you don't even really know what you're trying to achieve. They're so big, they're so broad. So I had to learn how to set goals the right way, and once I began to do that, I began to reach them. Well, maybe you've heard about the SMART tips, S-M-A-R-T, it's an acronym. Well, I want to teach that real quick because I believe this will help you go to the next level. The S stands for specific. You have to be as specific as you can be. You got to bring clarity to your dreams, the dreams you want to accomplish. Now, a wrong example would be saying things like, I will save more money this year. The right way to set a financial goal would be, I will save $6,000 by December 31st. And then you break it down. You say, okay, that's $500 a month. That's roughly $250 from each paycheck. Well, then you can see if that's even realistic. Is that something you can do? So be specific. Don't just say, a lot of times people get a prophetic word for the year, and we usually grab hold of those words. Well, I like to break it apart. If somebody says it's a year of increase, what does that mean to you? If it's a year of acceleration, what does that mean in your life? If it's a year of the great breaking loose, it's the great year, whatever it is, make it specific to you. Define that, what it means in your life. So the S is being specific. Don't just say, I'm going to lose weight. What does that mean? Be specific. The M stands for measurable. Now, this is where you can truly measure whether or not you really hit a goal. For example, the wrong way would be to say, I will lose weight. Well, you could lose 1 pound and I guess you reached your goal. No, the right example would be, I will weigh 120 pounds by May 15th. If that's your goal, if your current weight, let's say, is 130 pounds, and you're specific about it, you can measure your results. The A stands for action-oriented. Use action verbs when you set your goals. You would say things like reduce, save, earn, exercise, invest, enroll, run, things like that. Now, a wrong example would be saying things like, I will be more consistent with exercise. Well, what does that mean? A right example is, I will exercise 5 days a week. And then you can break that apart by saying, I will walk for 20 minutes on the treadmill. See, the more clarity you add to your goal, the more you will be committed to it. It's one thing to just say, I'm going to get closer to God. Well, what does that mean? That may mean, you know what? I'm going to read 12 books of the Bible this year. I'm going to read 1 book a month. So you have to identify what it means when you set these goals. My next point is realistic. If your goals are too big, you're setting yourself up to fail. You know, I encourage you to set goals that stretch you, that cause you to grow, that put a demand on your faith, but also set goals that are somewhat attainable. In fact, most goal, setting experts, they recommend that you set goals that have about a 50% chance of happening. Yes, put a demand on your faith, but don't make it so crazy that there's not a chance it could ever happen. Now, a wrong example would be to say something like, I will save $50,000 by May 31st, if your current salary is $70,000. Now, unless you live with mama, that's an unrealistic goal. A right example would be, I will save 10% of my current salary. If your salary is $70,000, then you would say, I will save $7,000. Then, of course, you break it up into monthly goals. What does that mean you need to save every single month? So, set goals that have some chance of being attained. And then the T stands for timeline. In a sentence, deadlines are motivating. When you establish a deadline to your goal, it just gives you that motivation to achieve it. So it keeps you motivated whenever you say, I'm going to do this by a certain date. In fact, you may have heard that, the quickest way to clean your house, invite some company over. That's a quick deadline, and your whole family goes into second gear. You will get the whole thing clean in 20 minutes because somebody's on their way. They say the most productive day of the year is the day before vacation. Why? Because there's a deadline. Well, the quickest way to achieve your goals is to attach a deadline to it. So a wrong example would be just to say, I will write my book. In fact, some of you may have a dream. God may have spoken to you to write a dream. Maybe He told you that 5 years ago. But as long as you just keep saying, I'm going to write my book, chances are it's not going to happen because there's no deadline attached to it. A right example would be to say, I will finish my manuscript by September 30th. Well, I want to challenge you to get serious about the dreams and the goals that God's put in your heart. And in my workbook, I teach you the right and wrong way, how to set goals, and some of the most compelling ways that I've learned to set and achieve my goals. But the reason I'm so passionate about this, it's not so much about, winning the Grammy Award and having the house at the Pacific Ocean. Those are great, and I believe God will give you the desires of your heart if that's what He has for your life. But the main thing is there are certain things that God's going to hold you accountable for achieving during your lifetime. And you don't want to come to Judgment Day and just say, Lord, I meant to do that. I just never found the time, or I just didn't really know how to go after it. So that's why I'm so committed to teaching you how to achieve your goals, because if you're like me, I want to be able to stand before God and say, Lord, I did my best to do everything you put me on earth to do. Well, one of the ways that I like to teach people to get serious about their goals, because you may hear this message, you might think, that's great, but Terri, I don't even know what my goals are. And trust me, I understand. I used to get out a sheet of paper on January 1st. I would write my broad goals, like I said before, lose weight, get closer to God, save money. I would put them in my nightstand and never look at them again. Do you think I achieved my goals? I didn't even remember what I wrote, much less go after them. Well, when I began learning messages like I'm teaching today about how to get serious about my future, I began to learn techniques on how to set goals the right way. Well, one of them is, and this is one of the most compelling ways to get in touch with your goals, is for you to imagine, project forward to December 31st of this year. Just imagine it's December 31st, you're at the New Year's Eve party, and you say to your friends, this has been the most amazing year of my life. Now, what would need to happen for you to say something that bold, something that, affirmative? This has been the most amazing year of my life. What needs to happen for you to say that? Number 2 is write your top 10 goals. Whatever it is, just write it down. Write your top 10 goals on paper. Now, the next step is do this for 30 days. For 30 days, you write your top 10 goals. But here's the catch. Don't flip the page to see what you wrote the day before. Just write what you can remember. Now, you may not remember all 10 of them, but that's okay. That just means all 10 of them weren't that important to you. So every day for 30 days, you write your top goals. If you can remember 5, that's great. Do it again the next day. Do it again the next day. Now, I learned this years ago, and I wasn't disciplined to do this. I'd never done it before in my life. So I had to set the alarm on my phone. It was like 10 o'clock every day, and the alarm would go off, and it would say, write your goals. I was like, oh yeah, write my goals. So I'd get my little notebook out, and I would write my goals without looking at what I wrote the day before. Well, after doing this for 30 days, you become so energized, so motivated, so ambitious to achieve those dreams. There's not a chance you're going to give up on them. There's not a chance you're going to forget about them, because every day for a solid month, you're thinking about it, you're writing them down, and then you start looking for opportunities to achieve those dreams. Now, what I like to do is after I've written my top 10 goals, I like to make a vision board to match those goals. You know, if you have a dream to get out of debt, I would call the bank today, find out how much debt you owe, get a picture of money, and write down that amount. And every day you're looking at that dream, you're praying over that dream. If it's a dream to pay off your car, I would go get a picture of you in front of the car doing the victory pose. Call the bank, find out how much you owe on that car. Put that vision before your eyes, and every day start speaking to that vision. You know, the thing that happens, it's so amazing. Have you ever bought a car and then all of a sudden you see your type of car all over the road, but you never saw it before? Well, that's because now your new car is right here at the forefront of your mind. So you see it everywhere. You recognize it on the road everywhere you go. But here's the thing. That car was there all along. You just never noticed it. But now that your new car is right here at the forefront of your mind, you see it everywhere. Well, do you know the same thing happens with your dreams and goals? When you write them down for 30 days, when you put pictures and images to your dreams, you make a vision board, you're praying over those dreams, do you know you're going to start seeing opportunities all around you to achieve those dreams? They were there all along. You just never noticed them. But now that your dreams are right here at the forefront of your mind, you're going to observe opportunities, ideas, resources, relationships that you never saw before. So that's why it's so important that you keep these before your eyes. You've heard that old phrase, out of sight, out of mind. And then let me just challenge you with this. If you write down 3 big financial goals, in order to achieve any of them, you got to get focused on one at a time. There's power to focused. You know, I remember years ago, I had a dream to write a certain book about using your imagination and dreaming big. And then I had another idea. I wanted to create like a dream journal to teach people how to put pictures and images of their dreams. Then I wanted to write a book on breaking soul ties. So I'd be on an airplane, I'd be jotting down ideas on breaking soul ties. Then I would be at home, I'd write ideas on the book about Imagine Big. I was so frustrated. I had 3 dreams in my heart, halfway written, affecting nobody, helping nobody. All of a sudden, I had to stop thinking about 2 of the books and focus on one. Focus on one at a time, write it all the way until it was completed, get it printed, and let it go out and help some people. Well, you know, you got to do the same thing with your goals. If you have a goal of, paying off a student loan of $3,000 or paying off a credit card of $7,000, then you want to pay off your car $10,000. Well, write all those goals down, but focus on one at a time. Which one? The smallest one. Pay off that school loan of $3,000. So, Napoleon Hill said, goals are simply dreams with deadlines. It's one thing to have a dream, but sometimes you just got to break it down into some measurable goals. So I want you to get this special offer we've put together, my book, Dream It, Pen It, Live It, Make Vision Boards Work for You. I'm going to teach you how to stretch your imagination, how to think big, but also how to set the realistic goals that you need to achieve now so then you can go after the bigger dreams God has for you. What do you do once you set the goals? What do you do while you're waiting? What do you do when it looks like it's never going to happen? There's even a chapter on who should see your vision board, who should see your goals. You can't just share your dreams with anybody. There's all these chapters that I know are going to help you get serious about the dreams and the goals that God's put in your heart. You know, the Apostle Paul said this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching for those things which are ahead. He said, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling in Christ Jesus. Well, those marks were goals. They were intermediate objectives. I believe God wants you to press toward the mark that He has for your life. So I want you to get this teaching. This is a workbook to teach you how to set goals, and then the audios to go with it. So you can just push play. Faith comes by hearing. I know this is going to help you go into a whole new gear so that this year is completely different than last year, so that you can look back and say, Lord, this has been the most amazing year of my life. Let's learn to succeed on purpose, right? So don't look at the years you've lost. Look at the years you've got left and start living your dreams. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I want to keep you motivated to achieve every dream that God has put in your heart. God is no respecter of persons, and I believe He's speaking to you today. He's saying, come on, don't settle where you are. Don't settle for average. I have so much more for your life. So, press toward the mark. Get serious about your future. You know, take the time today to just sit down, order these resources, and start thinking about the dreams that God's put in your heart.
God never intended for you to just exist with each day a repeat of the day before. He designed you to thrive and live your dreams. You've been given gifts, talents, and desires in your heart to fulfill a great purpose. So call or go online now to request the Dream It, Pin It, Live It package. In Terri's inspiring and practical book, Dream It, Pin It, Live It, you'll discover how to identify the dreams God's placed in your heart, how to effectively set goals so you can achieve them, how a vision board can dramatically impact your future, and much more. This special offer also includes the companion workbook to help you apply and personalize the teachings to your life, and an MP3 audiobook version to listen to on the go. Call now, 800-795-5597, or visit Terri.com to request these life-changing resources for just $35 for a limited time.
The next conference is a premier success training conference based on God's Word to help leaders grow. Join us January 25th and 26th on the lake in Rockwall, Texas, for 2 days of insight that will take your business, personal life, and ministry to the next level. You'll hear from my special guest, Chris Brown, who has 20 years of leadership experience and worked alongside Dave Ramsey at Dave Ramsey Solutions as a nationally syndicated radio host. I'll also be interviewing Gigi Butler of Gigi's Cupcakes, the largest cupcake franchise in the world. If you're ready to go to the next level, this is a weekend vital to your growth. Seats are limited and will sell out, so head over to Terri.com/next to register today so you can connect with influencers, elevate your thinking, and go to the next level in 2019.